Hello from BI Consulting Services. So if you guys remember the last time we did a video together, I talked about primarily focusing some on Power Apps. So for the next couple of videos, we're going to go through how you insert records into your SQL Server through your Power App. Then we're going to show you how to update records already in your SQL Server through Power Apps. And then finally, we're going to do deleting records directly through Power Apps in your SQL Server. We build out a ton of Power Apps for quite a few clients now. It has become the tool of choice, super inexpensive, and it really basically closes the gap on some of those operational inefficiencies at a very low cost without sort of spinning up a huge IT project and spending thousands of dollars. A lot of these applications will help you sort of mitigate or fill that gap at such a smaller price point than what you would do if you're spinning up a large, IT project. And for a lot of companies, that's just not feasible. So Power Apps is a great tool if you want to sort of mitigate or use a better process flow for various activities throughout your organization. So if you're using forms out on SharePoint, everyone has access to it, and you're basically inputting data that's very important to your business, you may want to move that to a Power App. So that way your end users are basically using a more secure and structured environment to do their data inputs, and it limits their ability to go and delete and edit and modify those records when you just don't want them to do that. So I'm super excited to take you through this today. It will be fairly short, but I think it'll be super meaningful for you guys. All right, so I went ahead and created a table, and so I wanted to just take you through what I did here. Fairly straightforward, but I created a table. I've called it sales order inventory table. I have an ID, which is basically our primary key, which is important and required for your Power App integration. I got an order date, sales order number, an amount, item number, and a comments section. And I've actually inserted a couple of records into this database already. One example of how you do that here. And then I just ran a select star on the table. So fairly straightforward process. And so now we'll go ahead and get into the fun. So I'm going to create a Canvas app from blank. I'm going to actually call it super creative, right? So we're going to go ahead and create your app. And once we get that blank app in here, I'm just going to hit skip here. The very first step is going to be just to connect to your data. And so you'll see some of the connectors available here. We're going to use the SQL Server one for today. We're going to hit add new connection. The primary authentication type that you'll typically use is going to be SQL Server Authentication. I'm using a cloud-based SQL Server. I'm going to grab my server name here. I'm going to paste that in. The database name, as you can see here, specific for Power Apps. And then you just hit connect. I'm going to grab the table that we just discussed a moment ago inside of our SQL Server. I'm going to hit connect. All right, and now that table is now currently a part of our Power App. So I'm going to insert a data table. I'm going to use the data source that we just displayed in the SQL Server and connected to. And we're going to go ahead and add some fields. I'm going to grab every single field of data that's available. All right, and you'll actually see the records that were showing up inside of the SQL Server here. The next thing I'm going to do is just have an insert button. So this insert button is going to be what we use to navigate to the page where we're going to actually insert records. And before we get too far, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the screen 1, and I'm going to call this main screen. So this is sort of your main screen where you can see all the data that's already been inputted into your SQL Server. And then we're going to do an insert screen here. And this is going to be where we actually go to insert our data. So here we'll go ahead and create the navigation for this in particular. So it'll be new form. And actually, let me come back to this because I need to create the form first. So let's go to our insert screen. Oh good, I was actually on the insert screen anyhow, so let's delete what's already there. We don't need any of this under the insert screen. We're going to actually create a form that'll be present on this screen here. We'll connect to the data source that we've already put out there. We'll go ahead and add all the fields just like we did on the other tab. The only difference here is that we're doing it from a form and not creating a data table that just shows all of our data that's available. All right, and then the other key step here is you want to make sure your default mode is in new, because we're going to actually be inserting new records inside of our SQL Server from this location. All right, and we'll go ahead and add a couple of buttons here too. So we're going to have a button that will navigate us back to the main screen, so we'll call it Home. And we'll have one more button that'll be actually used for inserting the records. Or, sorry, let's submit, for submitting the records to the SQL Server. So fairly straightforward. Let's go back up to the insert button and let's fix it also. So we're going to create an insert button that basically navigates us to form 1 so that we can do our new submittal. And we'll go to the insert screen for that, and we'll just create a feed. All right, so there's that. So let's hit play. If we hit insert, it should take us to the new screen. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and just do one sample to kind of take us through what the, well, actually before we do that, let's go to the insert screen and make sure that our submit button and our home button are doing what they should. So it'll be navigate here to the main screen. That's what that button will be functioning for. Let's go ahead and slide this down a little bit. And then here, our submit form, fairly straightforward too. It's just going to be submit form, and we'll be submitting form 1 when we do our submittals. All right, let's go ahead and play this app from the beginning, and let's kind of see it in action. So here you can see the 2 records that have already been inputted. We're going to go up here and we're going to do a $7 million record. Super creative. We'll give this an item number of 3. We'll go ahead and give the item number, order date. Let's go ahead and make this for August 2020, and then give it a sales order number. All right, and let's hit submit. Okay, so the minute we hit submit, let's go back out to the SQL Server. And let's just run a select star and see if that next record of data pops up. All right, perfect. So pretty straightforward, right? We have created a Power App that now will insert records into our SQL Server. I'm not going to go through any sort of more components. I think this has touched on everything. So in our next video, we're going to show you how to update records that you've already put inside of the same table. We'll work off the same exact table. So we'll go through how to update records, and we'll use this same exact structure and setup for the next video. So I will, just go ahead and save this. And yeah, so the next time we're together, we'll actually go through a video where we are updating records to our SQL Server. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe down below.